When you make your private life public, you essentially give others the ability to influence and manipulate you. In the digital age, information is power, and when personal details about your life, your weaknesses, your desires, and your fears are out in the open, they can be used against you. What you once kept private is now accessible to anyone with the intent to exploit it. This shift not only undermines your ability to control your narrative, but it also gives others the upper hand in any negotiation or interaction. They no longer have to guess your vulnerabilities. They can use your own information as a tool to sway decisions in their favor. Machiavelli understood that power is rooted in control and unpredictability. The more you reveal about yourself, the less control you have over how others perceive you. Transparency in this case reduces your strategic position because it eliminates any mystery or ambiguity that might otherwise give you an advantage. When you are open about your personal life, you allow others to make predictions about your actions, your emotional responses, and your potential weaknesses. This predictability gives them a tactical advantage. They know how to push your buttons, how to anticipate your behavior, and how to manipulate you into acting in ways that serve their interests. In Machiavellian terms, surprise is a weapon. The less others know about you, the more power you have to act unexpectedly, to hold cards that no one else can anticipate. When everything is out in the open, your capacity for surprise diminishes. You're no longer an enigma that others must work to figure out. Instead, you become a known quantity, and predictability makes you easy to manage. The more information others have about you, the less you can control how they act toward you, and the more vulnerable you become. This is why strategic withholding of personal information is crucial in maintaining your power. By keeping certain aspects of your life private, you retain the upper hand in social and professional dynamics. You decide what others know, and you keep them guessing about the rest. This controlled ambiguity allows you to move through the world with the freedom to act unpredictably, and it ensures that you are not easily manipulated or taken advantage of. By exposing too much of your private life online, you diminish your ability to bargain effectively. Whether you're negotiating in business, politics, or personal relationships, your leverage is greatly reduced when the other party has access to intimate details that could sway the conversation in their favor. Your vulnerability becomes their asset, and it's much harder to maintain your position when you no longer have the power to withhold information. Ultimately, Machiavelli would argue that strategic control of information is essential for maintaining power. The less others know about you, the more you control the narrative, and the less susceptible you are to manipulation. By revealing too much, you surrender your ability to maneuver with flexibility, and in doing so, you undermine your own influence. Personal information, when exposed, is no longer a private matter. It becomes a tool of control in the hands of others. And in the world of power, that is the greatest mistake you can make. When you expose your private life online, you diminish your ability to bargain and negotiate strategically. In any exchange, whether professional or personal, your ability to keep certain aspects of your life hidden is a form of control. People tend to make assumptions based on the information they have, and when you offer up too much of your personal life, you allow others to form conclusions about you. These conclusions, even if inaccurate, can be used against you in subtle ways, eroding your ability to hold a strong negotiating position. Machiavelli recognized that power thrives on asymmetry. The more you know about others, the more leverage you have. When you share too much about yourself, you remove that asymmetry. You become too transparent, and others no longer need to guess your intentions or weaknesses. Information is currency in any interaction. The more you reveal about your vulnerabilities or desires, the more leverage you give to the other side, who can use that information to their advantage. When others have access to your personal details, it shifts the power dynamics. For example, in business, if competitors or colleagues know about your financial struggles, family issues, or personal fears, they can use that knowledge to negotiate terms in their favor. Similarly, in social relationships, once someone knows your emotional triggers, weaknesses, or past mistakes, they can subtly manipulate you by leveraging these insights when needed. Your privacy becomes a bargaining chip in the hands of others. Furthermore, the element of surprise, which is crucial in power dynamics, is neutralized. Without the ability to surprise or withhold critical information, your actions become more predictable. Machiavelli's advice was rooted in the idea that unpredictability is a source of power. The more others know about your private life, the less room you have to maneuver. People will start to anticipate your responses, your desires, and your goals, and they can use that to manipulate your behavior to fit their agenda. You lose the tactical advantage of having a few unknowns about your life. In negotiations, the lack of information about your personal life often gives you the upper hand. The more neutral you remain in public and online spaces, the more difficult it becomes for others to use your personal life against you. People may even find themselves cautious in their approach because they are uncertain about what you might do or how you might react. This uncertainty creates leverage. By keeping your private life private, you maintain an air of mystery. You can dictate what information others have access to, giving you the opportunity to strategically reveal things when necessary to build rapport or influence. Withholding certain details about your life ensures that you remain an enigma and that others must navigate their interaction with you carefully, unsure of how far they can push, and uncertain of what they might trigger by revealing too much. This uncertainty works in your favor, making it harder for others to manipulate or predict your next move. Ultimately, the strategic withholding of personal information ensures that you are not easily categorized, manipulated, or controlled. It gives you the freedom to make decisions from a place of strength and to retain influence over how others perceive and interact with you. Revealing too much, on the other hand, makes you vulnerable. It hands the other side the ability to influence, predict, and even exploit your decisions. The more you expose online, the more you relinquish control, and this is where you weaken your position in both personal and professional spheres. Machiavelli's lesson here is clear. Strategic secrecy is power. Openness without restraint weakens your hand. In the battle for influence, information is one of the strongest weapons you can possess. And once it's given away too freely, it becomes a weapon that others can use against you. Human nature does not respect openness. It exploits it. People like to believe that sharing creates connection, empathy, and trust. That belief exists because it flatters the sharer, not because it reflects how humans actually behave. In reality, when people are given access to private information, their instinct is not protection. It is classification. They immediately sort what they see into categories. Leverage weakness. Pattern predictability. This happens quietly, automatically, and without moral reflection. No one needs to intend harm for harm to become possible. When you expose your private life online, you are not speaking to friends. You are feeding an audience whose incentives you do not control. Some will admire you. Some will ignore you. Some will quietly map you. Human nature rewards the last group. The ones who observe without reacting gain advantage over those who perform without restraint. Visibility satisfies ego. Observation builds power. People are comparative by instinct. They measure themselves against you the moment you reveal something personal. If your life looks better, it creates envy. If it looks worse, it creates contempt. If it looks familiar, it creates assumptions. None of these outcomes strengthen your position. They all reduce you to a reference point. Once you become a reference point, you stop being a variable. You are no longer someone others must account for carefully. You are someone they think they understand. Human beings also test boundaries instinctively. When they know your emotional triggers, values, fears, or pressures, they probe them. Not aggressively at first. Casually. Indirectly. A joke here. a suggestion there. They watch how you react. Each reaction teaches them more. Over time, this creates asymmetry. They learn your limits while revealing none of theirs. You become legible. They remain opaque. That imbalance is the foundation of control. Another uncomfortable truth is that sympathy does not produce respect. Exposure often produces tolerance, not elevation. When people see too much of your inner life, they stop projecting strength onto you. Projection is essential to authority. Authority requires distance. Familiarity collapses that distance. Once collapsed, it cannot be rebuilt by explanation or performance. You cannot unshow what has been seen. Machiavelli understood that humans are loyal to advantage, not virtue. If private information can be used later, it will be remembered. If it can be used indirectly, it will be stored. If it can be used socially, economically, or emotionally, it becomes currency. The person who shared it forgets. The person who received it does not. This is not cruelty. It is memory aligned with opportunity. Online exposure accelerates this dynamic because it removes context and permanence simultaneously. What you share is frozen, but the audience changes. Someone who had no power over you yesterday may gain it tomorrow. The information remains available. Human nature does not forget leverage simply because time passed. It waits. This is why openness feels good and costs quietly. It satisfies the need to be seen while training others to see through you. Human beings do not protect what they understand completely. They manage it. They manipulate around it, or they dismiss it. The mistake is not that people are bad. The mistake is assuming they will treat your vulnerability as you intended. Intent does not govern human behavior. Incentive does. And once your private life is public, the incentive structure no longer belongs to you. That is how exposure becomes erosion. Not through attack, but through understanding gained by the wrong people at no cost. Exposing your private life online means surrendering your power of perception. In the world of power dynamics, how you are perceived often matters more than who you truly are. The moment you make private details public, you lose control over the image others form of you. What you share can be twisted, misunderstood, or used against you, but even more dangerously, it becomes fixed in the minds of those who have access to it. People do not interact with you in the way you might hope. Instead, they process your exposed life through the filter of their own biases, agendas, and needs. The information you offer becomes a static portrayal, one that they can revisit at any time, mold to fit their narratives, and use to manipulate how you are treated. Once you put your personal details out there, you are no longer just a person to others. You become a set of data points, a story, something they can dissect, analyze, and manipulate to fit their objectives. Machiavelli would argue that perception is power, and by exposing too much, you allow others to dictate how they engage with you. When you remain private or enigmatic, you hold the ability to shape how people see you. They have to guess, inquire, and work to understand. That uncertainty grants you leverage because it leaves them in a state of inability to predict your next move. Once they know too much, you hand them the tools to anticipate and control you. In a sense, exposing your private life reduces your strategic flexibility. The more details others have about you, the less they need to guess, and the more they can plot their next steps accordingly. Your predictability strips you of your ability to act with surprise, which is one of the most valuable tools in maintaining control over any situation. By keeping some aspects of your life private, you maintain ambiguity, and ambiguity allows you to act unexpectedly when needed, keeping others unsure and therefore cautious in their dealings with you. This lack of unpredictability is especially damaging when it comes to negotiation and relationships. When others know your personal struggles, your motivations, or even your emotional weaknesses, they can subtly manipulate you using this knowledge to make you feel obligated, sympathetic, or indebted. Your power in negotiations diminishes because your opponents know your buttons and they can apply pressure where it's most effective. They don't need to negotiate with you on equal footing anymore. They have the psychological advantage. In personal relationships, too much transparency often leads to dependence. When you reveal too much about yourself, you inadvertently make yourself vulnerable. Vulnerability is a powerful tool, but only when you control when and how much you share. Once you expose too much, you create the risk of others taking advantage of your openness, either by using your vulnerabilities against you or by seeing you as someone they can manipulate emotionally. Machiavelli's approach to power was not about cruelty or manipulation in the negative sense, but about protecting your position by limiting what others can know about you. Control is preserved when you control the narrative, and the more you reveal, the more you lose control over how people interpret your actions, words, and intentions. Once you have shared something that others can use, you give up the space to act freely because your actions will now be filtered through the lens of what they know. This is why secrecy, when used strategically, becomes a form of personal sovereignty. The more you keep private, the more others must react to what you choose to show, not what they already assume or know. You maintain authority over your image, over how your actions are perceived, and ultimately over how much power others can exert over you. Revealing too much removes the possibility of surprise, reduces your strategic flexibility, and places you in a weaker position than you realize. In sum, exposing your private life is not just about oversharing. It's about undermining your ability to maneuver with freedom and control. Once others know too much about you, they can act on their knowledge, and you become a predictable variable in their decision-making. Control of perception is one of the key elements of maintaining power, and revealing too much only weakens your ability to hold on to it. In a world of shifting dynamics, the more opaque you remain, the more power you retain. In real power systems, exposed information is not judged morally. It is priced. Once your private life is visible, it enters circulation. Employers, rivals, collaborators, and even casual observers begin factoring it into decisions that affect you without informing you that they are doing so. This is how leverage actually works. It does not require confrontation. It requires options. Personal information gives others options against you while reducing your options against them. The imbalance grows quietly. In professional environments, this manifests as invisible ceilings. When decision-makers know too much about your pressures, values, or dependencies, they adjust risk around you. You are no longer assessed purely on capability. You are assessed on predictability. Predictability is managed, not empowered. Those with visible personal constraints are assigned safer roles, narrower influence, and fewer high-variance opportunities. This is not punishment. It is optimization. In negotiations, exposed private life collapses bargaining range. If the other side knows what you need, fear or prioritize emotionally, they do not need to meet you halfway. They simply wait. Time becomes their weapon. Your transparency converts urgency into weakness. You may still get agreement, but never on favorable terms. You negotiate from a position already discounted by what you revealed long before the negotiation began. Socially, the same mechanics apply. People adjust their behavior toward you based on what they believe they know. Sympathy replaces respect. Familiarity replaces caution. Once people feel they understand you, they stop accommodating you. Accommodation flows toward uncertainty, not openness. The less known you are, the more others hedge their behavior. The more known you are, the more they assume entitlement to your reactions. Online exposure also collapses role separation. Power depends on context. The version of you that belongs to one arena should not automatically follow you into another. When private life is public, contexts merge. Authority weakens because audiences no longer respond to role, only to persona. Persona is static. Roles are flexible. Power needs flexibility. Machiavelli understood that rulers fell not because they were hated, but because they were too legible. When opponents could model their reactions accurately. Strategy replaced fear. Once fear disappears, pressure increases. Online exposure accelerates this process by offering a permanent archive of your reactions, beliefs, and personal patterns. Others do not need to test you. They review you. The most dangerous consequence is not misuse by enemies, but silent adjustment by allies. Allies change terms when leverage shifts. They do not announce it. They simply offer less weight longer and expect more. You feel something changed but cannot point to when. It changed the moment your private life stopped being yours. Power operates upstream of interaction. By the time you are speaking, the terms are already set. Exposing your private life upstream guarantees you enter downstream exchanges already priced, already predicted, already constrained. This is not about hiding out of fear. It is about preserving optionality. Optionality is the true currency of power. The more others know, the fewer options you retain. The fewer options you retain, the more you must accept what is offered. That is how exposure becomes a strategic error. Not because people attack you, but because they no longer need to. The deeper cost of exposure is the loss of timing control. Power is not only about what is known, but when it becomes known. Timing creates advantage. When you reveal personal information online, you surrender timing entirely. You no longer decide when a detail is relevant, useful, or damaging. It becomes available permanently, ready to be activated by others at moments you cannot predict or influence. What feels harmless today may become decisive later, when circumstances shift and positions invert. Machiavelli understood that information revealed too early is indistinguishable from information revealed to the enemy. Context changes value. A detail that produces sympathy in one phase can produce doubt in another. A story that builds relatability at one level can undermine authority at a higher one. When private life is exposed, you lose the ability to sequence disclosure. Sequence is strategy. Without it, you react instead of position. This is how online transparency quietly destroys future leverage. You may not suffer immediate consequences, which creates the illusion of safety, but power rarely punishes immediately. It stores. When others know your patterns, beliefs, pressures, and emotional investments, they wait for moments of transition, promotions, negotiations, conflicts, reputation shifts. At those moments, old information becomes newly relevant. You are judged not by who you are now, but by what you once revealed. Another effect is narrative preemption. When your private life is public, others construct stories about you before you enter the room. You do not arrive neutral. You arrive pre-framed. This removes your ability to define yourself situationally. You cannot adapt your presentation to power context because the audience believes they already know the real version of you. Power requires the ability to appear differently in different arenas. Exposure collapses that flexibility. There is also the issue of escalation. Once one layer of private life is visible, the pressure to reveal more increases. Silence after disclosure is interpreted as concealment. Boundaries once crossed are expected to keep moving. The audience becomes conditioned to access. Refusal later is reframed as deception. This is not social behavior. It is leverage conditioning. Machiavelli warned that control is lost not when others oppose you, but when they stop needing your participation to act against you. Online exposure enables action without engagement. People form strategies around you without consulting you. Decisions are made in rooms you are not in based on information you volunteered long ago. You are no longer an active variable. You are a known constant. The strategic mistake is believing that visibility increases influence. In reality, influence depends on withholding capacity. The ability to delay, redirect, or deny information is what keeps others uncertain. Uncertainty forces caution. Caution creates space. Space is where power operates. Once your private life is public, that space collapses. Others move faster. You move slower. They anticipate. You respond. That asymmetry is not dramatic, but it is decisive. This is why those who hold real power are rarely transparent by default. Not because they are dishonest, but because they understand that control over timing is control over outcomes. Exposure forfeits that control permanently. And what is surrendered permanently is never strategically neutral. The final and perhaps most subtle consequence of exposing your private life online is the erosion of emotional independence. When you expose your private life, you invite others into your personal narrative, giving them the power to define your emotional landscape. People may not explicitly use your personal details against you, but simply knowing your vulnerabilities, your struggles, or your desires places them in a position where they can subtly influence your emotions or manipulate your responses. Machiavelli understood that power is not just about actions or decisions. It is about emotional control. A person who controls their emotions holds a strategic advantage because emotional independence allows for clear thinking, timely actions, and the ability to make decisions that are not clouded by external pressure. When you expose yourself to the world, you make it easier for others to test your emotional boundaries, and those who can trigger you emotionally, even unconsciously, hold leverage over you. Once your emotional triggers are visible, they become tools in the hands of those around you. They may not always exploit them intentionally, but the mere fact that they know what could upset you, what could make you angry or insecure, gives them an unspoken influence over your actions. Over time, this can lead to emotional fatigue, constantly having to manage how others view you, how much you share, and whether they are testing your vulnerabilities. This is not just draining, but it weakens your ability to project strength, authority, and control. Furthermore, when you expose your private life, you risk inviting others into your decisions in ways that aren't always obvious. You may become reliant on external validation, constantly seeking approval or reassurance from your online followers, friends, or even strangers. This reliance diminishes your self-sufficiency. Instead of making decisions based on your own sense of autonomy, you begin to measure your choices against how others will perceive them, how others might feel about them, or what feedback you might get. Machiavelli was keenly aware that those who cannot act from a position of emotional independence often fall prey to external pressures and manipulations. The more you allow others to shape your emotional state, the less control you have over your own destiny. You may be guided by a desire to gain approval, avoid criticism, or receive validation. And these desires can cloud your judgment, ultimately leading you to make decisions that are not in your best interest, but rather based on how others perceive you. The impact on your personal and professional life can be profound. In business negotiations, for instance, the emotional weight of public information can shift your focus from strategic objectives to personal reassurance. If others know about a recent personal setback or emotional vulnerability, they may subtly or not so subtly use that knowledge to shift the dynamics in their favor. This emotional manipulation reduces your ability to think clearly and act decisively. It pushes you to prioritize emotional comfort over strategic advantage. In relationships, this of emotional independence manifests as attachment to others' opinions. If you've exposed personal details that others can use to gauge your insecurities, those around you may begin to shift how they treat you. While you may expect understanding or support, you could instead find yourself in a situation where people's actions toward you are more about how much they know than about how they genuinely feel. The power to define the terms of the relationship is no longer entirely in your hands. You have unknowingly ceded some of it to others who are now shaped by the very emotional information you made public. Miachiavelli's wisdom lies in the understanding that emotional vulnerability, when exposed, becomes a subtle but powerful form of control. The more people know about your emotional landscape, the more they can predict, influence, and manipulate your responses. By protecting your private life and withholding certain emotional details, you maintain control over your emotions, ensuring that your decisions are not made in reaction to the emotional needs or expectations of others, but are instead rooted in your own inner strength and judgment. The greatest strategic asset is not the pursuit of external validation, but the cultivation of inner security. The more you expose yourself emotionally, the more others can exploit this openness. By maintaining boundaries and keeping certain aspects of your life private, you keep the reins of emotional control firmly in your hands. You protect your emotional independence and preserve the ability to act strategically without being swayed by the whims or expectations of others. In this emotional autonomy lies true power, the power to navigate any situation on your terms without being unduly influenced by external forces. Another critical consequence of exposing your private life online is the loss of intangible assets like mystique and influence. Miachiavelli understood that power is not merely about what you know or what you possess. It's also about what others don't know about you and the space you create for others to wonder. This mystique is a powerful tool in maintaining control over how others perceive you and respond to your actions. When your private life is exposed, you strip away the mystery that allows people to project respect, curiosity, or even fear onto you. Mystique fuels power because it creates uncertainty and forces others to act cautiously around you, knowing they cannot predict your next move. In the digital age, mystique is one of the most valuable commodities. It provides you with the freedom to shape perceptions from a place of strategic ambiguity. Without it, your actions become predictable and transparent. You no longer carry the psychological weight of being someone others are unsure of, or someone they must handle with care. Instead, they begin to see you as knowable, manageable, and disposable. By overexposing your private life, you become predictable, and predictability lowers the level of respect others afford you. Once the enigma is gone, the ability to influence is diminished because others no longer need to wonder about your intentions, your boundaries, or your motivations. Exposing personal details also affects how people engage with you. When your vulnerabilities, challenges, and emotional landscape are public, they create shifting dynamics in the way others approach you. In business, for example, revealing your personal life may cause colleagues, competitors, or even clients to see you as more human or approachable. While this may seem positive in terms of building connection, it risks undermining the authority and reverence that comes with maintaining professional boundaries. People are less likely to respect someone they feel they can easily relate to on a personal level. The emotional distance that once allowed you to maintain an aura of influence is replaced by a sense of familiarity, which makes you more vulnerable to manipulation and less effective at asserting authority when needed. The real danger, though, lies in how this exposure changes your relationship to power. When your private life is constantly out in the open, you stop acting on your own terms and begin reacting to how others perceive you. You might feel compelled to adjust your behavior to meet the expectations or assumptions others have about you based on the information you've shared. This diminishes your ability to maintain authentic influence because your actions are now tethered to a narrative that others have already shaped for you. Moreover, by losing your mystique, you also lose the power to surprise. In any power play, surprise can be a critical weapon. When you are transparent, you remove the element of surprise that gives you control over the outcome of interactions. People are no longer left to guess about your intentions or next move. They can plan ahead, preemptively counter your actions, and manipulate the environment to their advantage. In contrast, mystique creates a sense of unpredictability, forcing others to remain cautious and defer to your decisions, because they are never sure what you will do next. Finally, the most insidious impact of overexposure is that it makes you less significant in the eyes of others. When you share too much about yourself, your life becomes part of the public domain. You may start as an interesting, unique individual, but over time, your private moments, vulnerabilities, and personal opinions begin to blend into the noise of others' experiences. This dilution of individuality reduces the weight of your presence and makes you easier to ignore, manipulate, or replace. Miachiavelli valued the ability to stand out in the minds of others, to be someone not easily categorized or understood. When you are fully transparent, you give others the ability to treat you as an ordinary variable, a person whose role in the system is already defined. The lesson here is clear. Mystique and influence are core aspects of power. Once you reveal too much, you lose control of how you are perceived and the psychological space that gives you influence. The more people know about you, the less they have to guess about you, and the less power you retain over how situations unfold. True authority comes from the ability to maintain your mystery. Keep others on edge and use your unpredictability to assert influence, not just through words or actions, but through the silent weight of being someone they cannot fully understand. The final and perhaps most profound consequence of exposing your private life online is the erosion of control over your own narrative. In the realm of power, narrative control is crucial. The story others tell about you shapes your influence, your opportunities, and your relationships. The more personal information you reveal online, the less you control the story people will tell. Once details about your private life are out there, you can no longer dictate when, how, or in what context they are used. Others can selectively interpret, distort, or manipulate your narrative to serve their own interests without your consent. Miachiavelli understood that perception is often more important than reality. He recognized that those who can control the narrative, who can decide what others know and when they know it, hold significant power. In the digital age, this is more important than ever. By exposing too much of your private life, you give up the ability to craft the story of who you are and allow others to do so for you. When you make your life too visible, you become subject to external interpretation. Others will judge, label, and categorize you based on the information you've shared, and once they have their narrative of you, it's much harder to change. This loss of control over your narrative reduces your strategic positioning. Power often relies on the ability to surprise, adapt, and shift roles. When you expose your personal life, you remove the flexibility that allows you to act unpredictably. People will already have a preconception of who you are, and this limits your ability to maneuver and create opportunities for yourself. Your every action will be viewed through the lens of what you've already shared, limiting your ability to reinvent yourself, respond to new situations, or navigate power dynamics in a way that suits you. Moreover, by constantly exposing your private life, you also risk being reduced to a single narrative. People are complex, and to maintain true influence, you must remain multifaceted, unpredictable, and at times mysterious. When your life is fully exposed, you are no longer seen as a dynamic individual. You are simply a story, and people stop engaging with you as a person. Instead, they engage with the narrative you've created for them, which may not be the full story. They no longer question who you are or explore your deeper complexities. Instead, they treat you as an object categorized and defined by the parts of your life you shared. This limits the depth of your relationships and reduces your ability to foster meaningful connections that are based on respect rather than information. Exposing too much online also creates echoes of past mistakes, choices, or vulnerabilities. The internet never forgets. A single misstep or revelation that seemed harmless in the moment can be used against you later when others seek to discredit or undermine your credibility. Even if you grow, evolve, or change, the past you've exposed will remain available for scrutiny, and people will often judge you based on that past, regardless of your current standing or actions. This static narrative makes it much harder to move forward or reinvent yourself. You are perpetually anchored to the version of yourself that others know enough to fully control how you are seen or how others will react to you. The ultimate strategic mistake of exposing your private life is the surrender of your agency over how you are perceived and how you move through the world. Your narrative is your power, and when others can access and interpret it at will, you are no longer in control of your destiny. You become predictable, your actions more easily anticipated, and your capacity to surprise others is reduced. What Machiavelli understood, and what remains true today, is that mystery is power. When you allow people to form opinions of you based on what you share, you dilute the power of the unknown. The unknown is what keeps others on edge, what forces them to approach you with respect and caution, not assumption and certainty. In the end, revealing too much is not simply a matter of personal privacy. It is a strategic misstep that undermines your ability to control how you are perceived and limits your influence. By maintaining a level of privacy and mystery, you keep the upper hand, allowing you to navigate power dynamics with flexibility, unpredictability, and authority. Once you give away too much, you not only surrender your privacy, but also your power. The final and perhaps most decisive consequence of exposing your private life online is the permanent erosion of your power to control your environment. In any situation where power dynamics are at play, your ability to shape the environment around you is key to maintaining control. When you expose your private life online, you give up a significant portion of this power. The more others know about your personal life, the more they are able to define how they interact with you, what they expect from you, and ultimately how they perceive you. This shifts your position in every interaction, as others now have access to pieces of you that you cannot retrieve, unsee, or reframe. They have been granted the ability to hold certain truths or vulnerabilities about you, and with this knowledge, they gain leverage. Machiavelli's teachings center around the importance of controlling perception. When others can predict your behavior, anticipate your emotional responses, or understand your motivations, they no longer need to respect you. They may still treat you kindly, but in the back of their minds, they are categorizing you and adjusting their behavior accordingly. The moment they feel they know everything important about you, they stop approaching you with caution. They see you not as a force to be reckoned with, but as a known quantity. Once someone understands all of your weaknesses, emotions, and desires, their respect for you diminishes because you no longer represent mystery or power. You represent something manageable, even predictable. Moreover, your ability to manipulate or control the flow of information is compromised. Information is a key tool of influence. In the past, you might have had control over when and how your personal details were revealed, but once you open that door to the public, you can no longer dictate the timing, the context, or the manner in which your story is told. Others can use your personal information against you at any point in time, framing you in ways that may undermine your credibility or influence. No matter how much you try to frame your narrative, later that window of control is gone. The power to redefine yourself in someone's eyes diminishes when they have permanent access to details you once kept hidden. What Machiavelli would call strategic withdrawal is made impossible when too much of your private life is exposed. When you keep certain aspects of your life private, you preserve your agency to withdraw when needed to shield yourself from attacks and to control what information enters the public domain. However, once you expose too much, you forfeit that option. You become entrenched in your own narrative, and every mistake, every flaw, every vulnerability becomes an anchor that holds you to a version of yourself that others are already accustomed to. This leaves you with little room to maneuver in your environment, as people will expect you to act in line with the story they have built around you. Finally, there's the paradox of visibility. In the digital age, there's an assumption that being visible equates to being relevant, important, or influential. But in reality, too much visibility can lead to invisibility in the sense that you become overexposed. The more people know about you, the less they need to engage with you directly. They become spectators, not active participants in your journey. You cease to be a player who commands attention and influence. Instead, you become a figure who has already been categorized and rendered predictable. Once people have access to your life, you are no longer someone who can surprise or captivate them. You are a known entity, and the mystery that fueled others' interest fades away. The key to maintaining power and influence is to remain a mystery, to control the flow of information, and to ensure that others can never fully anticipate your actions. By keeping certain parts of your life hidden, you retain the flexibility to act unpredictably, to make moves that surprise others, and to command respect and attention when you need it. Invisibility, when used strategically, becomes a form of dominance because it allows you to hold psychological space and remain a force that others must navigate carefully. Ultimately, exposing your private life online is not just a risk to your privacy. It is a risk to your strategic autonomy. Once you lose the ability to control what others know about you, you surrender control over your own power. The less others know, the more mystery and influence you retain. By protecting your personal boundaries and withholding personal details, you maintain the upper hand, keeping your power intact and ensuring that you remain a force to be reckoned with, not a figure that others can predict, control, or easily manipulate.